1, 2. Hi, you're with Scott. Got the chat up already, the intro music. I made that myself. It's called Breakwalker. We've got that dropping in and out problem again. We're just going to roll with it. We've got the setting like we had yesterday, where the settings should keep us rolling, even if we do pixelate a little. What can you do? Hi, you're with Scott. This is Battery Exhausted, my channel. It's midnight. It's always midnight. This is your right ear and your left ear, because this is in mono. Wants to prefer the Punch-Out Legacy. Well, we're going to see some interesting stuff. So we talked about Punch-Out yesterday and why it was racist. We looked at the characters and we decided they were racist and dated. And then we saw that some of them have been replaced by other characters that were slightly less racist, but still kind of racist and dated. Since then, I looked on the internet a little bit more, and it seems that we're not the first people to be talking about this. It was brought up in the consciousness, the collective consciousness, by some media outlets. I think it was because Punch-Out was re-released for a new platform not so long ago and changed a bit. And so what they did was they actually did change some of the racist characters and sanitized them and made them slightly less racist. But I think, as we'll see today, that's not enough. It's not like it's fixed the problem, and we're going to look at a little video from somebody called Game Explain, who I don't know who they are, but I think they've got an interesting counter opinion. So we'll look at the counter opinion and then we'll discuss it. I'm not sure that we're going to have to bring up the tier. I've still got the tier list. I'll show you that. Web browsing. That's the video we're going to watch, if it works, if we can work it. Now, where's my window with all my, what do you call it, the web browser? There it is. So we were doing this tier list. We've got all the characters. We've got up to Narkis Prince, but we don't need, I think, to go through every character available to us on the tier list, because we're going to investigate more today, and we're going to see why in just a minute when we watch this video. This video, Game Exchange, bringing culture to gaming. Gaming is culture, so I don't know why you need to bring culture to something that already is culture. It has its own culture, and Game Exchange does not bring that culture to gaming. Gaming creates its own culture organically through its through the members of its subgroup. So I'm glad we got that sorted. And we dropped to 0. I wonder if that's because of the video. I wonder. We'll find out. We'll find out. It's all good in the hood, because this stream we are learning, and I'm developing as a streamer in these early stages, in these first months. So if we have little problems, little things we have to iron out, that's fine. It's better that we iron them out now in these early stages. So let's move the chat around so I can read it. There you go. So should we start off now? It's all good in the hood. That's what I say sometimes. We all live in a neighbourhood. We all live in a neighbourhood. So unless you live right out in the countryside, then you don't. But most of us live in the neighbourhood. It doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be like hood, like guns. Yeah, so let's listen to what Game Exchange has to say. Oh, also, I should make sure that you can hear it, shouldn't I? Desktop audio.
Hey everyone, Gaijin Goomba here. After seeing the success of the Zelda Islam episode, I wanted to have a deeper look at other examples of potential racism in gaming, and immediately Punch-Out came to mind. But after a few moments, I had to stop and ask myself, is Punch-Out actually racist?
They've decided, immediately to me, it's interesting that Game Exchange, Gaijin Goomba Media, whatever that is, Game Exchange have decided to go with this a Goomba, which is a creation from Nintendo specifically. They've got these stylized Nintendo blocks and pipes in the background, so they've tried to make themselves like a knockoff Nintendo product. They're obviously not licensed by Nintendo or directly. I mean, maybe they're paid for by Nintendo, I don't know, but they've gone for this knockoff Nintendo look, so they're trying to appear to be Japanese. Gaijin Goomba Media may be Japanese. It's an American voice, and it's an American voice voiced in a sort of comedic, high-pitched.
I wanted to have a deeper look at other examples of potential racism in gaming.
So if you're looking at the difficult and important topic of racism, maybe a high-pitched, comedic, animated living mushroom from a game series, stylized in Japanese cultural costume. They're the sandals, aren't they? Like those sandals that with the straps and a samurai sword. Little beard, eyebrows. I mean, is that racially insensitive in itself? They've comedically changed the pitch on the voice, and they thought that was a good choice for the important and sensitive topic of racism.
And immediately Punch-Out came to mind. But after a few moments, I had to stop and ask myself, is Punch-Out actually racist? I know that may sound like a stupid question to ask, but after a lot of thinking, the conclusion I came to may surprise you. But let's not jump ahead.
Let's not jump ahead.
To really answer the question of Punch-Out's potential racism, we need to start back at the beginning. And
Okay, so we are going to jump ahead.
War I German soldier. Piston Honda, whoa, wait.
Okay, so they're definitely racist. They've noticed that it's racist, just like we did. Let's jump ahead and let's see what they've got to say as a conclusion. Because I don't want to watch all their video. I don't think that's...
Webster defines racism as poor treatment of or violence against people because of their race, or the belief that some race of people are better than others. Can you honestly look at these characters and tell me that they're being portrayed as being inferior or being represented poorly? Do you look down on them because of the stereotypes they present? I don't think so. While all of these characters have one stereotype or another, they're not presented as being stupid, mean, or generally bad people. They're represented as being positive characters with likes, dislikes, and goals. And while those likes and dislikes are reflected in their stereotypes, it gives them a positive reflection as opposed to a negative. So is Punch-Out racist? In the first generations of it, perhaps. But to me, what I know as Punch-Out now is not only not racist, but probably one of the greatest shining examples in how our cultural diversity makes us special.
Right, okay, so they've missed the point completely. They've got it wrong. And I'll tell you why. Or we'll discuss it together, won't we? Let's just jump back to the definition of racism here. Poor treatment or violence against people because of their race. The belief that some races of people are better than others. So the assertion here is that these cultural stereotypes are not negative, so therefore not racist, because in order to be racist you have to be bad, like saying bad things. But there's a couple of problems with that. One, you're defining what your characteristics of good and bad are. So what you think might be good in your culture, being muscular and naked, might not be perceived as such a good thing in another culture, and you're ascribing that belief onto that culture. Your perceptions of good, their culture. You enhance and change things based on what you think are good, and that's supposed to be okay because it's not racist, because it's not bad, but actually it's still prejudiced, narrow-minded, and basing things on cultural ideas. It's just you've picked different ones and said that they're good ideas, not bad ideas. So that might still be prejudice and racist. The idea that these characters are all good, you know, like here, this character has got a car with loads of speakers, and, you know, that idea that just in this one, we're just picking them one by one now, that affluence and large spending on frivolous items is a good thing, might not be considered good by everyone in that culture. But we've ascribed it to that person. We've said it's good, so it's okay. It's not okay to do that, but it's not necessarily as racist, this one. Although Western people, capitalist culture, you know, maybe there is something racist going on there. Not necessarily as racist. This one, this is a Canadian, apparently developed in Canada, fighting a bear in the woods, in a pair of dungarees, bald-headed. So again, we've got these problems with masculinity, views of a way of behaving, definitely stylized by nationalism ideas here. They're bad ideas. Just the concept that you should be defining someone by their race. Why couldn't we have a Canadian who, let's say, take a different approach? Why don't we make the game not based on race? And then we could say, this character's a Canadian, they're a photographer, and they're into wildlife, and they drive a motorbike. You know, they don't have to be things that are ascribed by their nationality. They can just be character traits that a character has, and they can also happen to be from a place. That would be the positive way of celebrating the diversity in culture, in the world, rather than highlighting the things that make us stereotypically different, that we probably don't. You know, how many Canadians go in the woods and chop down trees in their dungarees? You know, how many really do that? And is it healthy to be perpetuating a stylized and culturally tired idea? Just skipping on. Again, you've got that we talked about last time, the fact that this guy's in his Speedos and wearing gold stuff. It might not actually be a good message to project to young people. This hulking, oversized, unnatural stereotype of a healthy male may not be that healthy. We talked about the cultural stereotypes here. So they said this game was produced in Canada, so we thought it was okay that the Japanese had produced their own stereotype of their own image in the past, but now the Canadians have taken it on, and maybe it's not so okay. Maybe it wasn't okay the Japanese did it in the first place, like I said. But certainly we've picked out certain elements of culture that we think are, and again, we Westerners now are choosing the bits of the culture from Japan that we say are good, and you can celebrate them and highlight and ascribe them to one character, Japanese, training in a dojo, like, ascribe it. That's your culture, that's that thing. We're celebrating it, so good on us. But actually it's not good, because we're still drawing these narrow lines around what a character should and shouldn't be, and projecting those ideas into the minds of young people. So, you don't have to wear a headband and train in a dojo because you're Japanese. Japanese people may not, it might be culturally more, a better cultural context historically, but it might not reflect modern society and the way people feel. So maybe that's not such a good celebration of different cultures. And certainly if you're the person creating the game, you're the person ascribing the celebration. So maybe you could get people from different cultures in and say, what parts of your culture would you like to celebrate? But being from a different culture and deciding which parts of someone else's culture you choose to celebrate, that's a little bit presumptuous, I feel. And still prejudice. Still haven't moved beyond the prejudice. Instead of, as I said before, a modern way to look at this, a modern approach would be to say, right, we're making a game about boxing, we're going to have all these different characters, even if you want to define them by their nation, because let's say the Olympics, for example, you compete under the banner of different flags. Even if you want to do that, because it's still culturally normal at the moment, that we can sort of accept that. I don't really like it myself. I don't really like it. Us as humans get divided as nations, but yeah. But then that should be, I guess, where it stops, shouldn't it? As I said, your characters can then be developed from the ground up as characters. Give them drives. I mean, you don't have to be so deep in Punch-Out, do you? It still can be cartoony and surface level. It can still be amplified for a comedic or entertainment aspect, but the Italian doesn't have to eat the pizza. The German doesn't have to eat the sausage. You could just develop, for example, Werner Herzog, he's a filmmaker. So my German character could be based around this character that I enjoy, this filmmaker with strong ideas who's prepared to break boundaries and go places that people tell him he's not supposed to, and will talk to anyone. That's a character, and he happens to be German. So we don't have to say, okay, but Werner Herzog also wears lederhosen and eats a sausage. Do you know what I mean? We can just completely leave all those tired things behind. And it's interesting that here on that picture of the box, there's the, I'll point to it by finger because I can't use my cursor, but they've still, the modern characters in Wii Punch-Out, this is the sanitized version. So let's just hear a little bit more about what Game Exchange said.
One of the greatest shining examples in how our cultural diversity makes us special, how it makes us unique, and how it gives our world some of the greatest spice we could ever have in our lives.
So they were talking about cultural diversity making us unique, and they did that. Let me just show you the picture again.
How it makes us unique, and how...
Good pausing. But this is the point I'm trying to make. It doesn't make us unique, this cultural diversity celebration, because what you've done there is you put little flags and maps and you said that's who you are. Like, the cultural diversity celebration actually draws a little box around the Canadians and says they're in the woods with their dungarees chopping down trees fighting bears, and that the Germans are eating the sausage, and they're like, it draws a little box around you and says these are the characteristics that your culture can celebrate and can enjoy, but the other stuff, it ain't you. But actually that's not true. All cultures all over the world now are all diverse and all different, and you can get any kind of interest, and you can drive towards any kind of style, and you can be from any kind of background. It's no longer a lines drawn, flags in the map situation. Like, people talk about globalism in terms of politics and nationalism in terms of politics. I'm not even trying to get political. I'm just saying, you understand this, don't you? We are now humans. Being from Germany does not make you, it doesn't force you to be a certain way in the same way as being from China doesn't. You can be anybody you want to be in today's world. And these messages of cultural diversity are actually drawing square lines around. I've got my samurai sword and my thing, and my historical, they won't let you leave. They won't let you leave. They won't let you go and become you. They'll keep you in this idea of what our society, the dated, old, racist society thinks you should be and allows you to be. So I don't agree with that celebration thing. These people don't all look unique now they've all got their flags out. They've all started to homogenise. One of them's in America. That person with the American flag used to be my friend Kelvin, and now it's just somebody with an American flag, an American. Do you see how that has changed them from being an individual to being homogenised nation, whatever kind of, what's the word? This isn't a fun one. This is something that's important to be said. This is the end of our racism and punch-out conversation. So I thought it was important that we said that. So they've decided in the media, in Game Exchange, they've decided to sanitize. They've accepted the sanitization of Punch-Out, and they've said they're celebrating it and saying it's good. And they're doing that through a medium where they're comedically aping a culture. Could it be called cultural appropriation? I don't know. I don't know if the people at Gaijin Gunba Media are Japanese, and I don't know. I don't know if this should be called that. Cultural appropriation isn't always bad. It's not always bad. Like, you can enjoy and experiment with other people's culture. You can ingratiate yourself in their culture and take whatever parts of it. Like, if it's a hairstyle, you can wear it. Like, that's not always bad because we live in a modern world, right? But sometimes it can be insensitive when, let's get this straight. I didn't dominate or slave trade or, do anything to anybody, did I? It's just the Western culture that I'm born into has a history of it. So if I wore my hair in dreads, even though I don't personally believe that I can because my hair doesn't form the dreadlock just genetically, but if I stylized myself on an African culture, it would be insensitive because of the history. But really, today's day and age, I didn't do any of that stuff. So it'd really just be a hairstyle. And the people that were ascribing all these other values onto it, certainly if you're a younger person who doesn't understand all that racial history, maybe they're the ones with the problem, and maybe we should be allowed to just celebrate culture. So cultural appropriation, in my opinion, isn't always bad, but it can be insensitive. And certainly if it's close enough, if you're literally the culture that is holding down another, and then you are appropriating your favourite things from it, which is a lot. I live in England, so it's a bit different in England, but we do have immigrant communities in our culture who are being oppressed in certain ways by nationalists and ideas, but we're not quick to appropriate their culture in any form. But in America, I suppose it is a bit different because you've got a more recently oppressed community, and their culture has been a lot more drastically appropriated and resold and packaged and commodified in more recent times. But still, it's a melting pot, isn't it? Cultural appropriation. It's a melting pot. Some of it's good, some of it can be insensitive, but really, if I believe in freedoms and I believe in everyone's ability to explore their humanity, then I give people the benefit of the doubt and the allowance to explore other people's cultures by experimenting in them, by, if you go and visit the tribe in the jungle, then I think it's fair if you want to wear the costume and see what it's like to be a tribal member, to live, to walk the walk, so to speak. And if when you come home you want to still paint a bit of thing on your face, I don't think it's unfair to the tribe that you respect and are culturally fascinated by. I think it's okay to experiment with culture. In the same way as I wouldn't feel that an Italian should tell me off for eating pizza. I think we should all enjoy the fact that we share these things. Fine. So I'm not going to go on about that too much, but I just did. But here is a big question. if you want to answer these questions yourself, I'd love it if you discuss it in comments and chat, because that's what it's for. Is that racist? Is that video discussing racism itself insensitive and racist? I don't know. But I don't agree with the opinions that they're sharing. Let's just see what it says down here in the old comments. And have a look at some of the comments. And this will just finish off our Punch Out Is It Racist session. And that would be good, because then we'll have done a little video series then. A few years too late. The French have a stereotype of giving up easily, still boxing after 99 losses. Contradiction in terms, brilliant. As a Californian, I can say that Super Macho Man is accurate for us. So there's a Californian who is, again, they're talking about us in California. Now, I can guarantee you that Super Macho Man does not represent every Californian. I can guarantee you a lot of Californians who do not feel that Super Macho Man looks like them. But maybe the Logster does look like them or feel like them. And they have internalized that as a Californian. And they agree with it. So there you go. Can you honestly say these characters are being represented poorly? Shows Von Kaiser getting beaten up by children. Yeah, the idea that Game Explain tried to share was a bad one, that these are all shown positively, because all these characters are definitely not shown positively. I'll just show you that. Look, there's, again, another national stereotype, not necessarily positive. When he's called, is he called Kaiser? Was he called Von Kaiser? Kaiser, yeah, I mean, even that is racist, isn't it? The Kaiser, Hitler. I mean, Jesus. So they're saying it's not racist and that it's positive, but they're wrong. And someone's noticed that in the comments. 24 is stereotypical. The cultural stereotypes in the game were wild. Yeah. Aaron Ryan is a great character. Me being Irish, I see all this stuff about us drinking all the time and other stereotypes, but Aaron is like people I would know. Cheaters and short-tempered, and says, bye, old boy. He's obviously a real Irish man. So, this is the problem. We talked about self-fulfilling prophecy in other videos. Let's get Aaron Ryan up. Is the chat still working since I moved it, do you think? No, all of a sudden, boom. That was weird. That was weird. I said, is the chat still working? I moved the window to try and find the chat window, and boom, the chat all just suddenly started working. You see that on screen, can't you? You can see how that works for me. That's weird. Now the chat's working again, brilliant. This is Aaron Ryan. He's an Irishman and described as a drinker and a fighter and Conor McGregor played up to that stereotype, didn't he? Conor McGregor played up to that rowdy Irish stereotype. And we're saying this is positive. Or, sorry, we're not saying it. They are saying it. A cheater, look, he's got horseshoes in his thing. So this guy who is Irish believes that as a real Irish man. And this is the problem, like I say, is that this real Irish man believes that that's how a real Irish man should be. So they behave like that and see people that behave like that because that's what society tells them real Irish men should be and are. It's not just that you should be that, it's that you are that and you can't escape being it because you are it. That's the self-fulfilling prophecy. We looked at it in Mental Health Monday, and you can check it out on the True Binaural channel in the video called The Anxiety Trap. So this person is living the life that the stereotype perpetuates. And they don't think it's a bad thing. They think that's okay. It's a great character. Me being Irish, because I represent, they've internalized it to the point where they think it's good. But actually, that's why it's bad. That's why it's so bad. Question, is the game racist? No, because they like the characters. You see, there is that, isn't there? This idea that you celebrate these different characters and enjoy it, so it's good. But I actually think the reason that Game Exchange have said no, it's not racist, is because they make money out of promoting games, and the people that pay them to promote the games probably want them to promote them and say good things about them. So if they can bring it up as a subject and then absolve the companies that sell the games and in public sort of, wash away their sins, then that's even better for Game Exchange. But not good for the people who watch the videos. Honestly, it was more racist to remove pizza pasta. Now it's, what? Not that it is actually racist, but as an Italian, I hope for an Italian rep in the next Punch-Out game. Right, so they're disappointed they haven't got their nation represented in the game. And that's this concept of nationalities. If you're going to segregate us all by nationality in your game, then the people that don't feel represented, the nations that aren't included, will feel unrepresented. And honestly, if I was a Soviet, I'd be proud to have someone as badass as Vodka Drunkensky representing me. And this idea that because someone is someone else's idea of good, that other culture should be happy with it. I think that Vodka Drunkensky is not bad racist, because I'm not the race that's being offended. I don't see all those cultural stereotypes and say, oh, that's taking the piss out of my granddad, that's making my uncle look bad, that's making, I don't see that. I just go, oh, it's funny, and also he's hard, so I don't mind. But really, they've missed the point again, haven't they? They're looking for more national representation, even if it's racist, and they don't mind the racism in other stereotypes because it's not their culture, and they're happy to take on some of those stereotype ideas because they think they're good. It pokes fun at everything. That alone makes it not racist, biased towards nationality. No, that doesn't work either. Just because you say mean things about everyone doesn't mean that you're balanced, therefore not mean. It means that you're mean. And the fact that they bias, but you've said it there, it makes it non-racist towards nationality because it's poking fun at everything. Do you mean that they're poking fun at every aspect of their personality? Because that's not true. I'm a Californian. I find Macho Man hilarious. He's a great character. They do a good job representing characters' nationalities without being racist. I disagree, but, we'll look at that in a minute. We'll just finish off by looking at the revised characters and confirming that they are racist. This is a comment that I wanted to come to. And it's a bit weird. Watching this 6 years later, when any hint of cultural stereotyping, because we're watching this 6 years later, when used to create a fun and positive character. So they're saying if you create a fun and positive character and you also add racial stereotyping, it's enough to whip up a lynch mob, which is ironic because the lynch mob was a mob of people who used to go around hanging black people because they were racists. So the idea that we're whipping up the same thing now in culture is rude and insensitive and wrong. We don't whip up lynch mobs. There are Twitter mobs and things like that, and social justice goes a bit... it turns into bullying on social media quite easily because young people who are not... we're dropping frames again, aren't we? That's brilliant. I'll keep talking. Because sometimes young people who are not so experienced in etiquette and social good behaviour are allowed to... And not just young people, people who are not versed in etiquette and good behaviour are allowed to have their free run. It doesn't mean it's good. Yeah, so it's terrible use of language here in this comment. People forgot that it's okay to laugh at each other and play with cultural iconography. No, that's okay. That's okay. If you've got mates, it's okay to have a joke with your mates. There's context. Context means that I can allow, like my sister can call me all the names under the sun and I don't mind. My other friend can take the piss out of my physical features. They could, my friends, if they want, and they do, can really, rib me. But we have an understanding that they actually love me, and that if anyone else did it outside of our social circle, they'd defend me. It's not that they really want me to feel bad. It's that we have this concept, this unspoken understanding that it doesn't make me feel bad, that it's actually seen as a form of like it's an in-joke between friends, and it's seen as a sign of care in a way, of love. But you can't just do that to everyone. I can't just play with everyone's cultural and iconography insensitively and assume they should all just get the joke and be on my level and not take it so seriously. Because some people's cultural iconography is quite sensitive and important to them. And if I'm going to be a good human being, I should understand what's important to people and then... treat it with respect if that's the case. It's not always the case, not for everything. It's not for everything, is it? I don't think every Mexican always feels offended every time they see someone, playing the guitar like a Mexican, what they call it, the mariachi bands. Every example of a mariachi band in culture doesn't offend every Mexican. I get that. We can celebrate and joke with cultural iconography, yeah, but it doesn't mean that all cultural iconography is off limits. It's okay, and freedom of speech and all that. Of course, it is. You can say what you want, but it doesn't mean it's right to do it and that you're not a dick for doing it. You know, there are times when it's important to break down cultural iconography. There are times when it's important to take these things on in public and play with them and dismantle their power. But people have not forgotten it's okay to laugh at each other. This is the problem in the comment. I'm pointing my finger. We should laugh with each other, not at each other. They've missed a point there as well. It's okay to laugh with each other, but laughing at each other is just rude, isn't it, really? And play with our cultural iconography. Okay, we can play with it, but you've just played with it when you whipped up your lynch mob. So that's, yeah, everything is so fucking miserable now. Well, it wouldn't have to be miserable if there weren't people going around doing insensitive things all the time, would it? You know, if people like you weren't going around with your attitude, then we wouldn't have to discuss it, sort it out, work it out. We could all just get on with being fun. But it's when people come and spoil the fun with their bad attitudes and bad ideas that we have to stop, slow down, talk about it, work it out, and move on to a place where we can be friends together and start to have fun. So I'm really glad I got to directly take on that comment. Really glad that was the one that I wanted to talk about. Just to finish, there's another one here. I'm Russian. I admit I drink. I'm losing my hair. I'm over 2 meters tall and I weigh more than 110 kilograms. Maybe I'll turn into Soda Popinski in a few years. Sweet. So another one who's internalized the self-fulfilling prophecy of the playing with social ideals and ideas about nationality. There we go. So is Punch-Out still racist, even though Game Exchange says it's not? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is, man. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Goodness, I can swear in this one because I tell you what, I uploaded a trial run to YouTube yesterday, and YouTube was just like, listen, got the yellow advertiser, yellow symbol, advertiser not friendly. YouTube's just, imagine if you made something that was really, really valuable to culture, but advertisers weren't interested. It wasn't advertiser friendly. Imagine that. Imagine important things being pushed aside because advertisers don't like them. Because they don't help sell products. They're not valuable. That's what we've got to now. I don't care about the money. I just care that YouTube shares it. And I've had to accept now that YouTube will not share my work unless I monetize it. And then the other funny thing about it is that YouTube will then monetize my work if I don't monetize it. It will put adverts on even if I don't. So yeah, this is the world we're living in, and it's a world of cultural insensitivity. So we're going to pick just the new ones now, just the up-to-date ones. So we're going to go with this fella. He's got a rose in his mouth. He's supposed to be a dashing Spaniard, like a matador figure with his arms back like that. He's not okay. He's not neutral. He's racially insensitive at best and a bit of a slur at worst, being a Lothario, like a man would have this aggressive attitude to his sexuality, and implying that he has lots of sexual partners. Yeah, that's not good. Next one, this is a Sikh. Rolling. I was ranting, rocking, rolling. We're back. We have to just keep rolling. I'm just gonna have to keep talking and crossing the old fingers that it's working. And we're gonna briefly finish, aren't we? Because we haven't got long really to finish what the point we're making. So this is the more modern Great Tiger. He's Indian. And look, we can just confirm that... why is my thing not working properly? Come on, man. Come on. Loading my activity. I'll load your activity. Right, now we're working. Religions in India. Hinduism, 80% Hindu. Islam, 14%. Next, Christianity. Sikhism is only 1.72% of the country. And yet they've taken that and that image. It's not even on, Sikhism there. And they've used it to perpetuate a national stereotype image that isn't even accurate anymore. It's not the majority of Indians wear turbans. That's not true. We put him there as okay. He's not okay, really. He's a bit iffy because he's perpetuating an inaccurate cultural stereotype. And then they've gone with the tiger thing as well, haven't they? Tigers, tiger skins. It's not good, is it? It's not good. Not good. We know about this guy. He's Canadian. Is he a really good cultural role model? Canadians, beards, bald heads, woods. Bit iffy at best. So you can see where we're going with this. They're still racist. They're still racist. So that's what we've decided, isn't it? Is it okay to still be populating punch out? I'll go big face a second, and I just want to see the punch out games available. It's difficult doing a stream when it's not working properly. Look at all these games that are available. The latest, 2009 for the Wii U, digitally re-released on the Wii U, Virtual Console. So it's not out now. It's not out now on the old Switch. We're awaiting the next instalment, really, aren't we? It only seems reasonable that Punch-Out, a game that has been going since the inception of Nintendo arcade games, was on the Game & Watch, it was on the NES, it was on the 3DS, the Wii U, the SNES. It's now available on the Virtual Console, on the Switch. So it is on the Switch, really, isn't it? Big face. Let's go Punch-Out Switch. Let's find out about this. Arcade Archive Super Punch-Out for Nintendo Switch is available. So yeah, it's completely available on your Nintendo Switch. So should they still be selling, perpetuating? Mike Tyson thinks there's a new Punch-Out for the Switch, and that would be terrible if they use Mike Tyson as the sales point, wouldn't it? Convicted rapist. I believe people can serve their time and offer positive things to society as changed individuals, and that Mike Tyson's had a lot of difficulty in his life, but he's also been a multimillionaire and convicted of certain crimes, so maybe shouldn't be lauded as the face of a video game for children. Arcade Archive Super Punch-Out, there you go, look straight in there with the replaced character, still stereotyping. You can play this on your Switch, yeah. And there's our racially insensitive stereotype characters, all there available on your Switch. So, yeah, I mean, our question last time was, is this acceptable and should something be done about it? And I still think that question is worth raising. It's worth generally talking about in the context of, hey, maybe clicking all those windows is making it more difficult for the old stream. Let's close them all now. Let's just close them all. Bye-bye. So yeah, today's stream has been about closing this little episode where we've discovered that they're still using racially insensitive iconography, characters, religion is involved, and yet it's now accepted by the games media generally that it's not racist anymore, that it's been sanitized. It's being sold on the current platform. They're going to be doing a new one, and so I wanted to say, yeah, that's Punch-Out. We've covered Punch-Out, but I'd like to sort of say, is this this is a conversation that we are having at the moment in the world of art. They tore down statues during the Black Lives Matter movement. There are relics of a colonial past scattered across America and, of course, throughout Europe. And it happened in America. The one I know about in Europe was that I used to live in Bristol, and there was a guy there, Colston, who, if you lived in Bristol back when I did, you would have seen him around, his name, his statue. Now they've torn down the statue and they're renaming things because he was heavily involved in the slave trade. But it was like one of those names that built the city. You know, these old people from way back when. There was like the Colston Hall and the Colston, streets and things like that. So there are these cultural hangover relics that they're now being challenged and changed in culture, in society. The things that we can all share and see, we've decided as a society that it shouldn't celebrate things that are negative, that we agree socially, like racism, things like that. We shouldn't be celebrating the triumphs of racists and racism. We kind of think that now. Good, I think that's good that we think that. So we do that in society. We take down the things that we see as symbology of that racism and replace them with better symbols. And then we keep the old symbols in museums and galleries and things, and we look at them through a context to remind ourselves and to learn and to remember and educate, so that we don't have to repeat those mistakes. So I'm not saying we should completely get rid of Punch-Out. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that maybe we should, or they, the coders, the people that are working on the next installment, should update the game. Make it about individual characters and not about cultures. Make culture about what an individual character can bring to a culture, not what about a tired idea can ascribe to an individual. So celebrate that. Celebrate diversity within culture by showing us diverse characters, not repeated cultural norms. They can do that. What a great Punch-Out that would be, with all these diverse characters, yeah. And then the old ones, you sanitize them, yeah, I guess. You change those characters that are racially insensitive in the way you've been doing, but just carry on and do it properly. So get rid of the German guy who is based on a war parody and introduce someone more modern. If you wanted to stick with historical figures, you can do that. Make them historical figures, set the game in some sort of time-traveling history perspective so that you can understand them as historical characters, not modern characters who are just strangely living out historical fantasies. You can do that. You can change this so that it works. And then you can just pop that, over the top. They recently released Diablo with a new set of graphics, and it's the same Diablo 2 underneath, but it's just got new graphics running. The same engine is running the new graphics. So it's quite sensible and straightforward to create new emulations of old games that just remove the racially insensitive things and replace them with something more modern, so that people can still play the old games. And then the really old games, the cartridges, the arcades, they exist as relics, and they're seen as such. Yeah, that's how we should deal with that. I mean, we deal with that with other things in society. There are other relics of racism that people don't just destroy, but hold on to as a historical record. So I think that's where we should be going with this. And maybe we'll find other games that are like that. This is what art's like. This is the landscape of art. So maybe we'll find other games that are like that as we look at things in the future. Maybe you know a few and you can put them in the comments. If you know any things that you think are culturally insensitive or racist in games, then please put them in the comments and we can have a look at them maybe sometime, and other people can discuss at length. I don't know. I'm glad we did, though, because I just had a little idea. I just thought, just for the weekend, let's just do a little tier list. And then I got dragged down this foxhole, and I'm glad we did, because we've covered something valuable, something interesting, something that makes you think. And maybe people have got different opinions and they want to share them. So that's cool. Back on tomorrow for Mental Health Monday. And maybe it'll work better in the evenings, because I usually stream in the evenings. I tried daytime this weekend and it's been an absolute nightmare. I just wanted to say as well, real cheese, not real cheese. We don't eat real cheese. We're vegan. All right. So you be good, my little puckos. You be good.